Welcome to Green Fashion Dialogues, the official podcast of the STARS project. I'm Simona Vettore, junior expert in circular economy and your host. STARS is part of the Erasmus Plus program, co-financed by the European Union. In this episode, we will dive into the topic of how to fund a creative project with Alise Vitola and Luigi Della Sala, experts in European project design. How can we start with a creative idea and turn it into an economically sustainable business? Let's talk about it. Hi, good morning, Alise and Luigi. Welcome to our podcast. How are you today?
Thank you, Simona. I'm very well and happy to be here.
Me too, the same, Simona. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you both. So let's start by breaking the ice. Can you present yourself to our community? Would you like to start, Alise?
So my name is Alise Vitola. I'm Latvian. I lived in Latvia until about 7 years ago when I moved to Greece. Now I still keep a very close connection to Latvia, where I have my job, and I'm also going there now and then to organize various events and meet with my colleagues. I have been working in the NGO sector now for about 10 years. And I have worked with several organizations. The largest one is Creative Ideas from Latvia. And also 2 years ago, I established a new NGO, Lab Futura, to focus on some topics which are very important for me, like gender equality and support to migrants and refugees in Latvia.
Thank you, Alise. And what about you, Luigi?
Well, I'm Luigi Della Sala. I'm Italian, but I'm based in Brussels, in Belgium. A few years ago, 6 years ago, I set up a company which is called 3 Agency, which is developing social innovation and educational projects. Essentially, I design this project together with my colleagues, and we apply for European funding for developing these projects. I manage a team based all around Europe, so it's a sort of digital company. With its good and bad thing of being digital. At the moment, I'm actually based all around Europe in the sense that I'm trying to leave Brussels for a while, so I'm traveling a lot. I'm very happy actually to be here. I'm very interested in the question that will follow.
Thank you. So let's start with the topic of today, that is how to create a project. And let's start from the basics. How can we go from an idea to a concrete project?
If I may start, I would like to say that it's very, very important to, first of all, to focus on one idea, because we have many ideas, what we could do, what we should do. There are many needs, many interesting things we want to do. So I would say, first of all, to get from an idea to project, you have to really clear your mind and focus to one idea, one question that you want to develop.
Luigi, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I very much agree with Alice. It's one of the most difficult things when your head goes all around the place and you start to think about different ideas that you have for a project. Once I would start from what I want to do, like an event, a social media campaign, or anything. But after I understood that this was not the best path, actually, because I would end up maybe doing activities that are not very needed. So I started to study, analyze different project development theories, and I stumbled upon the theory of change, which say that it's important to have a why before, and then to have an impact, to think about an impact. And right now what I do is that I really think about people, like myself, my brother, my sister, my mother, or my friends, or a group of people that I want to work with and for. And I really start to think about their needs, essentially, or analyze, or I study needs of these people. And from there, I start to develop, let's say, an idea following really this theory of change that starts from the why, the what, and the how. But I think that what Alice has said is very, very important, because sometimes I find myself with plenty of different ideas, and it's very, very difficult to focus on one. But you have to be sharp on this, I would say, because it's better after.
I completely agree to what Luigi said about establishing this logical framework of the project. And indeed, that's why also we have to listen all the time what is necessary for society, because we don't make projects for ourselves. We make it for the society, for the community. That's why also, let's say, we usually don't start from a blank sheet. So we have some running projects. Also in the running projects, we always try to talk to people, to make also some evaluation activities, some questionnaires, some discussions to ask people what exactly they need. Let's say, like I said, now in Lab Futura, we are working a lot with refugees from Ukraine in Latvia because we have about 40,000 people now living in Latvia. So we ask them, what do you need? What is working well with your integration? Where do you see some missing points, missing support? So we try to find that out, and then with the new projects we add we let's say we know activities that are already necessary and that work well, and we try to add new things that people have said that they need.
Okay, this is very interesting. So we talk about the fact that we have many ideas, but how can we understand if our idea is feasible? Do you have any tool that we can use to have a little bit of an idea to feasibility around our project?
I think that the first thing that I do is experience. I remember about the joy and the pain of developing previous projects, and I try to remember what was good, what was wrong, really. I think that this is crucial. And also lately what I experienced, but this is really new thing for me, like since 1 year, maybe 1 year and a couple of years, I would say, since 2022, if I have to say, what I experienced is that in all the processes where I didn't feel well, this was not good. So I really try to focus on how I feel during the process. So if I feel well, no matter what I'm doing, let's say, this is good. So I try to follow a little bit my, really the way in which I am, let's say, in a specific activity. Because sometimes I develop things, or, well, sometimes in the past I found myself developing things and not feeling well. So I really give a lot of importance to how people feel. Me, of course, in the process, but also people around me. If I see that there is some resistance from people, let's say, in doing something, I stop. I try to stop. I know it's very difficult, because sometimes we enter into the loop of doing things a little bit like Alice was saying before, no? Like, it's very, very difficult to detach now yourself and look at the process and say, if I am not good at this, this is not good, like we don't have to do this. So, but this is really a new thing. Otherwise, before I would just look for experience. I will try to remember what was good, what was not good in a given activity. But this is a question that I pose myself constantly. There is not probably a straightforward answer to your question, Simona.
I think that's a good point what Luigi was saying, because indeed what I also would say from my part, I base a lot of these decisions on my experience, because I have seen what works, what doesn't work, what is easier, what is more difficult, maybe what we can do. There are some things we cannot do also. And what I would also say is that, okay, let's say you are a new organization and you want to start a project, you don't have this previous experience. Still, I mean, we all have participated in kind of activities before. We have some experience, maybe not as project coordinators or project managers, but still we have taken part in activities which would help us to understand what is feasible and what is not.
Okay, so experience. But the main elements of a project are team, so people that can be part of your project, then knowledge, and finally funds. So if we are new to the idea of creating a project, where we should start from?
Well, following your logic about the team, starting with the team, I would say it's very important to have people to collaborate with while developing a project. In my experience, I have developed a few smaller projects alone. It is possible, but with these projects, I see that they lack kind of creativity. because always when you come together with other people, you have more, spark of ideas and brainstorming. It really helps to improve and to make the project better. So I would definitely say find at least one person you can discuss the idea. It doesn't mean that you have to develop everything together and so on, but someone to discuss. And I would say it should be a person, maybe let's say if you're that experienced, find a person who has some experience, or try to find someone who has different experience as you, to have this matching of different competences while developing a project. Let's say I'm a person who's more, I like to put things into boxes, to make budgets, to make everything orderly. And I like to work with someone who's more creative, maybe who can give me some interesting ideas that I haven't thought about. So I think first understand yourself, see what are your advantages, your strong points, and then try to find someone in your team that has probably different skills, different competences in project development.
And it sounds like project therapy, It's very, very nice what Alise said. I think finding people is crucial. I did this alone for a few years as a consultant. It is just as Alise said, it is possible to do, but it's not fun. And at some point also it's too much. Like you feel too much alone and you don't breathe anymore with your brain. And together with people in general, you need to find the different people, diverse people who have different approach from you. I think this is crucial because it's very, very enriching in this way. And where you don't arrive, other people arrive. And this is very important. Knowing yourself is crucial. So you need to understand what are your strong points and your weaknesses as well, and look into this without being afraid. I think that when you work as a consultant or when you create a company, this thing come more naturally to you, because automatically you need to do this effort because you are alone indeed, right? So I think it is very important. Knowing yourself, finding the right people around is not that easy. Not easy. It takes time. At the beginning, I think when you develop project ideas, you are more focused on developing it, maybe just to proving yourself that you can. So it took me a few years to understand the importance of network and also building up the right network. For example, once that I started to understand the importance of network and people, so knowing the organization, another lesson for me was to start to say no as well. Because sometimes at the beginning you don't surround yourself with the right people. I'm not saying something against people, but I mean the right fit. So you tend either to find people that confirm who you are, which is sometimes not ideal, or people who do not follow you enough, let's say, so you don't give you the right importance. It took me years to understand this. But once you understand this, it's very, very important. You start to understand how to use your energy in the right way. And I think this is really crucial. It's very, very important. And after, of course, knowledge, as you said, as well, it's very important. Make your own research about things and start to understand why it is important to develop a given project. This is easier, I would say, because today also with the internet it's much easier to find information everywhere. Today with artificial intelligence even more, I would say. So yeah, the link with people and with organization is crucial, and it takes time to build this up, honestly. It's not that easy.
So can we say that usually when we start for the first time a project, we used to talk with our inner circle, so to find support in our inner circle. Do you think that it's useful, or it's better to going out from our comfort zone and probably connecting with people also around the world, far from our society and our circle that we are used to talk with?
I would say try to do both. Involve some people that you know, that you trust, someone to help you, especially with the first project. Also, I would say start with smaller projects in the beginning. And the other thing, try to get out of your comfort zone. Look for other people, other organizations that will definitely help you and expand your view and help you to make a more qualitative proposal.
I completely agree. Both crucial. At the beginning, it's normal that you refer more to the people that know you better. Maybe also because you are insecure. No, it's the first time you do this, so you find more comfort in in having a relation and a chat with people that know you already. But after, it's very, very important to get out, no, and start to get in contact with people that you don't know. And I think another thing that I understood is that at the beginning, when I was a consultant, I was having contact with different people for different projects, and I didn't put them together because maybe even if I didn't know, I was insecure and I was sort of ashamed maybe of the contact with these people. But at some point, I understood that, hey, I mean, to develop a project, I know 5 people. They are 5 different people. They do 5 different things. Maybe if I put them together, it's actually easier for me to develop a project, or at least it's faster. And then I started to put them into net, like being a little bit the center of it, and this helped me a lot. So, but it took me a lot to understand the importance of it. So I was really thinking in separate, like I know Simona, I know Alice, but I never put them together. So I developed a project with Simona, a project with Alice, and maybe these 2 projects will not go. While instead, if I develop only one with both of you, it will work. It took me a while to understand this, and of course, this is a very banal and sound stupid example, right? But after a few years, I really tried to create a net between different contacts that I have, and the things worked much better. Also because these people trusted me, they knew me, and then it was also important for them to see that I could give them access to other people and other organizations. So this was really key for me.
Yes, collaboration, definitely. Don't be afraid of that. Sometimes people maybe think, if I collaborate with more people, they will steal my ideas or, something like that. But I mean, there's so many opportunities, so many ideas. So don't think about that. It doesn't work like that. I never had a problem like that, even though I work also with different topics, with different teams, and it's only an advantage to have a wide network of collaboration. And as Luigi said, to bring people together, to make synergies, to make new ideas, new projects. It will work very well.
And just to conclude this subtopic, do you have any tools or advice to find and create good partnership, like connecting on LinkedIn, on Instagram, things like that?
Well, there are a lot of, LinkedIn is one of the, for professional things, I use LinkedIn pretty much. I mean, it's a good tool, I would say. Otherwise, there are, in the specific domain of European projects, there are also some portals in which you can look for interesting partners. One that I use a lot is called Up to Europe, with 2 as a number, so UP2 as a number, and after Europe.eu. And after, I have to say, another thing that I experienced in the last years is also friends of friends. Like, for example, I don't know, I contact Alice and I ask her whether she knows a good organization doing this kind of work, because in this way, you are... there is a guarantee, if you want, that this contact has been already validated. And also, I trust Alice. I know that if Alice considers this organization or this person a good one, then it should, I mean, there are high chances that these are good, that these organizations are good. So, like referral of a friend, it is also very, very important. But also, I'm really just talking about my little experience, if you want, in the field of European funding. So after maybe in other field might be different. So I really use LinkedIn and this Up to Europe at the moment. But lately, in the last years, I'm really focusing a lot on friends of friends, because there are a lot of organizations working, in the field of European projects, and it's very difficult to find organizations that have a different approach, that they don't make projects just to make them, but they really want to have a real impact. So I think friends referral is what I'm using the most at the moment.
I agree with Luigi. Also, in my case, I would say we could call it a snowball method. You ask one person, that person suggests you to contact someone else. Of course, that works when you already have some, at least basic network, right? So, but what happens, sometimes also people ask me from Latvia, for example, they want to start an international project. They don't have many contacts, so they ask, Alise, can you suggest me some suitable organization to my needs? And then I'm looking into my network and I try to bring them together. Also, I'm not absolutely afraid of sharing contacts and making new connections. I think it's for benefit of all of us. So that's one thing. Also, of course, there are many webinars, also face-to-face seminars, for matchmaking, for contact making on different topics and different programs. I suggest using these as well. In my experience, that has worked well, especially webinars where people can discuss common topics, think about common project ideas. We really have found partners, very good partners in such events. Also, online there are partner search tools, also again for different programs, different tools. So you have to check where you can put an ad, say I'm an organization like this, my interests are those, I would like to be a partner, I would like to be a coordinator, and so on. Of course, in this case, you never know the partner, how they will work, will they be reliable, because also sometimes, you might get the partners like university or research institute, and you think they must be very good, reliable partners, and then due to some reasons, I'm not saying that it's always the fault of the organization, maybe they overloaded with the projects and so on, the result might be not so good as you expect. Personally, I prefer mostly to work with smaller organizations because I know that people are really into it, what they are working. But it really depends. I don't want to make a stereotype like that. It's just my experience lately. I work mostly with the smaller NGOs.
Okay, so connect and search for small NGO and other people that you can share your idea of the project. So we have a feasible idea, we have our partnership, our network. So now, what are the first steps to get funding for your idea? What do we need to do?
That's the question of question. Well, it depends on the character, on the features of the project. I can surely advise on at least a couple of ways. One is for sure getting European funds. So basically, European funds are not an income, let's say. Okay, you don't get an income, let's say, but you get money or budget if you want for developing some activities. So right now I develop this expertise. So what I do is basically I start to work on defining the idea, essentially on developing content around the idea. Written content. I write essentially summary of this idea in a specific format that I developed, let's say, and there I start to develop more content around it so that I can prepare an application for funding for programs that I know already. This is for me the easiest way because I know this field. But another thing that I can suggest above all for projects that they want to have a very strong impact and they don't want to be linked too much to funding criteria, might be, for example, to work on a crowdfunding campaign, which is also a field that it's a little bit, if you want, more free compared to European funding, because you can develop projects in a more creative way if you want, and you can also ask for the money that you really need. You are not, let's say, obliged to enter into the frame of European funding. And there, what I do generally, I would suggest to go to crowdfunding platforms, possibly platform based in your own country, and start to have a contact with them, because they have a specific onboarding process, no? Like you can basically send a summary of your project and the owners of the platform will tell you whether this is fundable or not, and then after you will enter into a relation with them in which they will suggest how to improve this and whether it is worth to think about launching a crowdfunding campaign or not. So these are the two ways that I know. The first one I know much better because I work in this field since a long time. So what I do, I really start to try to develop written content and around this idea. This will be the first step for me to try to start thinking about obtaining the funds, I would say.
If I am a new organization, there are many ways how to start thinking about funding. As Luigi said, also you can think about donations, for example. You can go to big companies and ask them to donate for your idea. It really depends how much funds you need and for what time span are we talking about for the project idea. And then there are different fundings, local fundings, European fundings, also some, I know more about Latvia, some municipalities. In municipalities, you can apply for some small funding. I also do that. I have projects funded by the Riga municipality in Latvia. Then you can go also to state institutions. They have some programs. I also have experience with that, actually quite regularly. I apply for funding from the Latvian government, and then of course European funding. And each of these funding lines have special requirements. Some give more funding, some less, and some you can get projects for 6 months, and some you can get projects for 2 or even 4 years. So there are many opportunities. And how to start? If we talk about new companies, new NGOs, I would say talk with people, check a little bit with what other organizations in your field are using, what kind of funding. Also talk with people a bit which projects are easier maybe to write, to start, because there are some smaller projects which maybe need a few pages of very comprehensive proposal of an idea, which would be a better start than, maybe don't start with the project proposals where you have to write 100 pages as your first project. That would be too overwhelming, and maybe would spoil your appetite generally for attracting any kind of funding in the future. So I would say go talk with people, go to seminars, webinars, listen about different funding opportunities. But yes, definitely talk with your colleagues and find out, because in the seminar you also might not understand so well how much work you have to do for a proposal, what will be the requirements after that. I would say a colleague would help you the best to understand what is realistic to do in your level of current skills and knowledge.
Sure. And in your experience, do you think our community probably is more interested into creative projects? So we think about new business in sustainable fashion and things related to, fashion, creativity. Do you think that there are elements that are different from other projects that are more specific for creative projects to take into consideration?
I would say there are some basics that are the same for any type of project. Of course, if we talk about business projects, they have many specifics. Most likely you have to develop some kind of a simple business plan, and we will talk more about this in my webinar about how to start a business and how to make a simple business model and other useful things. So I advise to check that. Yes, a business plan. You need to have some forecast, how will your business work. So definitely business projects have specifics. About the creative sector, generally, I don't know, let's say what Luigi says, but I would say that in project there are still quite a lot of things that are the same. Doesn't mean it's creative project or it's a based focused on sustainability and so on, that there would be some specifics. I wouldn't say so. The framework, how you develop the project, not really. Anyway, you need to know why, how, and all those basic elements as Luigi described before.
Yeah, I will tend to agree with Alise. I see a huge difference with the business, just as Alise said, because there, the main consideration are, I would say, financial or economic one. While instead for the creative one, I don't think that you follow a different flow, let's say, in developing it. Maybe lately what is really important is trying to have an impact, let's say, and then really focus a lot on what are the main results that you want to achieve and the change that you want to make. Because, I think that we are I feel a little bit in the middle between two different ways of making projects. I sort of developed my professional profile when there was still a sense and a meaning in doing a project, no matter what, let's say. Instead, I see in the last years that it's not always like that. Making a project to make it doesn't make sense anymore. And then maybe this one, it became more important in the years, like really trying to explain why you want to have this project and why maybe not why this project is different from another one, but really what is the change that you want to make with this project. It doesn't have to be necessarily something new, because if you take an innovation and you bring it to a place where this innovation never took place, this is innovation as well somehow. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel, I will say, but you need to explain this well, maybe more right now compared to, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, let's say. But I wouldn't say that for creative projects you have a different flow. Maybe the only difference is, just as Alise has said, with the business one, where there the financial consideration are a little bit more dominant, let's say, more important.
Now what I see with the new funding programs, yes, they are very much focused on results. That's one thing you should think about, results, impact. Also how sustainable the result is. Will someone use it after that? As Luigi said, maybe some 10 years ago it was more technical. You have a project, you have a budget, you implement it. Now the donors, the ones giving the funding, are more result oriented. They maybe don't care that much how you spend the money. I mean, the focus is not so much anymore of control of every invoice or counting every pencil that you bought. This used to be like that some years ago. Now it's more on, you have more flexibility how you implement the project, but what I want to see is the result. Let's say you promised you will have a training for 20 people, you have to do training for 20 people. And if you don't do it, if you have 10 people, you have big problems. So be careful when planning, try to be realistic. And that's a good thing, I believe, because I think that we shouldn't spend too much of our resources on details, on counting pencils, counting transport tickets and things like that. It gives us really opportunity more to focus on the results of the project, of the impact of the project. And also in audits that we have in the recent years, we witnessed the same. We had really like 2-hour conversation, 2-3 hours with the auditors. How did we choose the people that took part in the project? How will they use the results of the training, as I work mainly in the education type of project. So there are more and more, there is this focus on results, on impact, on sustainability of the project, as Luigi mentioned before.
Sustainability will be a topic that we'll discuss in the next questions. But by now, I will ask you if you have any tools to manage all these details, and what are the risks and how to manage during the creation of a project.
Yeah, maybe a few years ago, I would say that the risk is to fail, but I actually changed my mind in the last years. And I think that the big risk sometimes is to have success at the beginning that is not expected, in the sense that what I learned in the process is that failure helped me actually in taking things a little bit more slowly, in understanding what was good, what was not good, and to prepare myself to win projects as well, and then to manage them well once that I won them. Sometimes instead, at the beginning of my career, I probably got too much, I have to say, at the beginning, and I was a little bit overwhelmed. I didn't realize that because I was very happy, to win, for example, a big project. The first project that we won as 3 agency was very, very big. For example, very big in terms of budget and in terms of duration of the project. And I was, of course, very excited at the beginning, but I made a lot of mistakes because of this excitement. So I don't know. I think that the risk are this one, probably to enter into something that maybe, I don't want to say it's too big. It's not about the scale, I think, but that is not in line with what you are. This might be a risk. And maybe a second thing is to feel a little bit alone in the process. I mean, for consultant right now, we work online, digitally. It's very, very difficult to find contact with people and to establish long-term contact. It's very, very important to do this though, because otherwise you feel really alone in the process, and when you feel alone, it's really bad. I mean, at least for me. So while on one end, digital is a huge opportunity for us, on the other hand, sometimes it's a risk, because you risk really not to not to have a constant relation and contact with people around you. And this in the end is really, really bad for you, I would say. At least my personal experience, it was like that. I don't know, maybe Alise, if Alise will say something else, maybe something else will come up to my mind. Yeah.
I would say that the project management, it's constant risks, and always there are some smaller and bigger problems. But with experience, and also, I mean, if we do the projects carefully, we shouldn't have too many problems. But it happens. It happened to our organizations where I work. Also, sometimes I'll talk about this later, about financial streams, for example, that we have to check those carefully. We have also had times when we really did run out of money. I mean, everything was working. Projects were implemented. We had a lot of funding, we just didn't have it in our organization at the moment. So that can happen, the same what they say about a businessman. A businessman might have a stable company and then he doesn't have €5 in his wallet. Yeah, so the same can happen in certain conditions with the NGO as well. But in our everyday work, of course, we always have some smaller, bigger problems, really starting from very practical things like, let's say, if we have a training, we have participants have to sign the participant list and it gets missing. Yeah, that happens. It just happens. And then you have to think about what to do. And then, for example, I have developed some approaches. If I'm in an event like that, I take a photo immediately. So if it gets lost, as it happens sometimes, I have the photo of it. These are small things. Bigger things, they are about the financial streams. Let's say in some point you might not have sufficient funding in your NGO so to run the things. So there are many risks, smaller risks, bigger risks, but with experience you get to know how to manage them.
Sure.
Maybe another one, if I can mention, is the turnover of people around you, in the sense that, this is also a risk. And this is why it is extremely important to try at least to create the condition for people around you to stay well, because then this will increase the chances that you have that after people will stay with you and they will keep working in the project. I mean, today we cannot really imagine that people around you will stay with you forever in a project, because, the job environment has changed dramatically in the last years. So it's obvious that people change job constantly and they want to do something different, and they live in a more dynamic way compared to when I entered in the job market, which is like 15 years ago. But still, it's very, very important. I mean, this is a risk, people coming and going, around you. And I mean, in the years, you have to be, let's say, intelligent, maybe also lucky somehow enough to build up relation that really last, because this is really, really crucial, because you create trustness and you develop skills of people around you. It's really, really nice, because after you have this contact, that is easier, if we work together on more projects, it's obviously easier, to talk, and it's obviously easier to plan the work. We know each other better. So I would say one of the risks is also turnover of people around you. The financial risks are always the most pressing ones, I would say, anyway.
And about the tools, Simona, what you ask, I would say one very useful tool that we can use, I don't know if we have maybe a webinar planned to talk about this, is the project canvas, which is one page. On one page, you can put the most important elements of the project in the beginning of our conversation. Luigi also already mentioned why, then how, when, the resources you need, the target group you focus, your partners. That's a very useful tool, in my opinion, to use. And I suggest, especially young organizations that don't have this already developed competence in developing projects, to use this to put really your idea on one page. But I would say also for me as an experienced project developer, it's useful because it allows somehow to really focus on the project ideas. As we discussed in the beginning, that sometimes you have so many ideas and so many things you want to do. So such a project canvas can help you to organize your idea.
Okay.
On this, I completely agree. There are plenty of tools as well. I think one of the most, maybe I will answer in a different way. I think that in my own experience, what is really, really important is to tailor this to you. Like whatever tools will work only if you make it your own tool. So I would say I would invite people not to be afraid to change this and to adapt the tool to you and not the other way around. In the sense, not to adapt yourself too much to the tool, otherwise it starts to become a problem to use it. So in my own experience, sometimes I use tools that are very, very easy, simple. I will say the first answer that I will give to your question would be Google Drive, which is, it's not even a tool in itself, right? But it is. It's a sharing tool, right? And it's something that we use now, I think, every day, for everything we do. So I think that it's not about the complexity of the tool, but it's really about how the tool is user-friendly and how really you can adapt this to you. I think this is very important, but it's true. I mean, I'm not maybe super technological. This is also need to be said, but yeah, I think it's very important that the tool doesn't become an obstacle for you. In the sense, if you spend too much time in understanding the tool, in my opinion or in my experience, that's not a good sign, actually.
Huh. Certainly, that's what I also see, that nowadays we have so many also project management tools and, cooperation tools and so on. But I use very simple, like, let's say for my work planning, I use a Google document where I have the urgent works, then things I have to do in July, in August, and so on. It works fantastic for me. I heard about this from a colleague that she heard about that in a seminar, and I think it's fantastic. The simple, the better, because also if you get into those many tools and you might get confused and some things might get lost and so on. So I would say, the simple, the better. If Google tools, definitely, because they allow to collaborate with other people, and it's very important when writing projects. Also, maybe for you, it could be a page, a blank page where you put post-its. So really use all your creativity, but keep it simple and focused.
Okay, so start small, start easy, and try to tailor the tools to your needs. Can we say? Is it right?
No, I would say so.
Definitely, because creating a project, it's such a wonderful work, and it gives you an opportunity to use your fantasy, to use all your skills, knowledge. But start simple, start small, so that you enjoy it, and then later you can do some bigger things and do it so that it's an easy, like one step, next step, and so on, so that you can keep the fun element in it, so that you can enjoy it. Because if you don't enjoy it, then what's the point in doing a work like that?
I completely agree with.
This is a powerful advice.
Indeed. And it's something that we tend to sometimes forget, because we think that work has to be pain or suffering. So I disagree, actually. I completely disagree. We come from that culture. I would say, unfortunately, I'm old enough to come from that culture, and I'm trying to change this. It's very, very difficult for people from my generation, because, we are used to think that at some point there has to be a percentage of pain and sufferance in the things we do. But that's not true, actually. That's not true. I mean, it can happen, of course. Life sometimes is not that easy, and then you need to be ready for it. But it doesn't have to be holistic part of your work. I reject this completely. It has to be instead more about having fun and enjoying the process. There might be issues in the process, but most of the process you need to like and you need to enjoy. Otherwise, it's not worth, actually.
So working hard doesn't mean that will give you success. You need to enjoy what you're doing.
I think so, yeah. And you can enjoy by working hard as well, you can say. But, when you feel that when you feel pain, this is never good. That's what I want to say. It's not holistic part of the work. No, we should reject this. I think on this sense, younger generation, and I mean people who are right now between, 18 and 30, they understood this well and right. And I am not afraid sometimes to go to them and ask them advice on this, like how to do that, because sometimes we are not really capable to do this because we come from a different we're used to look at this with a different approach, and then we believe that pain is a again, an holistic part of this path. And that's actually not true. So we shouldn't be afraid to ask for advice to younger people in this sense, I think.
This is a nice point. Thank you. So we learned from Luigi that success is also destabilizing. So, but what can we say about failure? Because we expect to fail somehow. So how can we face failure in a project?
Laughing. Laughing, really. No, I mean, it's tough, but laughing, trying to learn from it. Like, not, yeah, I don't know how to answer this, but yeah, like really thinking that this part of the process. And maybe it's not about success and failure, but it's about, again, staying into the process and trying to create a process that is as enjoyable and as pleasant as possible, and knowing that it's not easy to create it. So in this sense, failure it's part of it. You need to learn. I mean, today I look at it with more calmness, I would say, but it happened to me. I had a consultant career in which the first 3 years I developed like 20 funding proposals per year, and I was never funded, never. I got funded the first project at the end of the 4th year, one project. It was very small. And well, while I lived those years, it was very tough for me, but I enjoyed the process a lot. So I repeated myself that this was the right thing to do. And at some point, then I would win funding proposals. And then that's what happened, to be honest with you. And after, at some point, I started to win, and then funding proposal came. And instead, I understood another lessons that winning sometimes was not the point. Most of the time, actually, winning was not the point. But most of the time, the point was to develop projects that made sense. And sometimes I won proposals and projects that were not good. I'm not afraid to say today, because I was very much focused on winning, you know. Instead, today, I'm much more focused on doing something that makes sense. So if I have to write less funding proposals, but proposals in which I believe more, I'm not afraid to do that. So it's really a path. And I would say that, I don't know, failure is part of it. Maybe we should really look at the way in which we define things and maybe delete from our vocabulary words like success and failure. And I'm not saying this to you, Simone. I use constantly these words. I also, during this podcast, I use success and failure very many times. But, you know, consider this as part of the process more calmly. That's why my first answer will be, let's laugh in front of failure. Let's celebrate failure, I would say sometimes. It happens to us still today. We find we write very nice funding proposal. One thing happened. One of the last episode was, I think, in December, I believe, in which we received an evaluation, and we got a score from 0 to 100 of 92, and we didn't get funded. I mean, honestly speaking, what can I do? How can I not celebrate a score of 92 out of 100? I mean, I thanked everybody involved in the process, and I say, look, we did a great job, actually, and we should celebrate this. Or, for example, I don't know, when we send the proposals, no, we have this thing of, okay, we submit, and we forget about it, because, you know, we'll get the result in a few months. Instead, right now, I stop and I say, look, we did a great job. We submit the proposal. Let's celebrate this. Let's not worry about the result that will come in 4 or 5 months, because we did this today. So, I don't know, let's take a time, even if we are not together today, let's go to have a drink, or I don't know, a tea, whatever, or whatever it is for you, the way to celebrate. And let's think of each other, because in a way, we work together for, I don't know, 1 month, 2 months on this. We need to celebrate no matter what will be the result, you know. I think this is very important. I know it's difficult, and I know it's easier for me to say this once that I won proposals in the past, but I think that this is really, really important, trying to detach yourself from success and failure and really focus on making a process that is enjoyable.
Yeah, failures and mistakes, it's really a natural part of any job. And of course, also in a job with different kind of projects. What we have to do, indeed, we have to learn from it, take it as a normal part of our life. With experience, we learn how to deal with different kind of problems, mistakes. Also, what Luigi said about not winning projects, in my experience, many times when I had the opportunity to we submitted a project, it was rejected, we improved it. Actually, the next version was much better, and it was much easier to implement it. That's also one point I would like to say for organizations. Don't be sad if a project doesn't get funded. Look at it again, see how you can improve it, make it more simple to implement, more focused, and you will benefit from that.
Yeah, that's totally true. Probably failure is not even the right word to say in this context. Also, I remember a project that I created many times ago. Everything was fine, the idea, the network, and then the COVID happened. So just the timing was wrong, and then the project failed. So let's try again. Who knows?
Yeah, this is really important. It's part of the learning process as well. I
Yeah.
very much agree with Alise. I mean, we never try to get, there are projects in which after we don't believe anymore, it happens, no? Because we realize things in the process. But when you receive a negative evaluation, try to really focus on the good point of it. And also what I remember that I started to work with collaborators and I said, what was wrong? And then people started to stop me and they say, again, younger people stopped me and said, look, maybe we can say what we can improve. So even changing the language, it helps a lot, because then it's not anymore about what it doesn't go. It's about what you can improve. It's language help you in making it milder, no, and a little bit better.
Yeah, so it's an opportunity at the end of the day.
Yeah, indeed, very much. Yeah.
Nice. So let's conclude this talk by shining a light, and let's talk about what happens next. So we succeeded with our project, we concluded it successfully, and now what can make it economically sustainable? How can we think about tools and ways to stay in the project?
I will leave priority to Alise because it's too difficult for me. I really suck at this, I have to say. So I leave Alise the priority, let's say.
Okay. So first of all, when we develop project, of course, we also think about this in advance. How will we use the results after that? So as I mentioned, I work mostly with educational projects. So we develop some training programs, we implement training. So we see what will remain in our organization. Let's say if it's a training, the training materials, also the knowledge of the teachers. And that's why, as Luigi said, it's good if you can stay in touch with people, that you collaborate. It will not always be possible because especially in the project world, people are involved in one project here, another project there. So, but try to have a team that is maybe not changing so much, working on a certain topic. For example, lately I have developed several materials for business training. I developed a guide which is printed and also in a digital form, so we can use it for many years now. I also tried not to include things that might change a lot, like, I don't know, tax rates or things like that, because those, at least in Latvia, they're changing quite often. So I try to make the material so that it's also very usable after 5 years, for example. And then the things that changes more often, I have them in the online course. And again, if I see that something is changing without additional costs, I can just update the material. It will not take me that much time as initially to develop all the online course. So this is something we have to think about when we start working on the project proposal. How will we ensure that the results we have are used also after the project funding ends? And that's something that the funding organizations also look for. That's what they check because they want to see that the project ends, but the results remain.
Yeah, I think that linking myself to what Alise said right now, we are spending in the last, we'll say here, we spend a lot of effort at the design phase. So at the design stage, let's say when we think of a project, to develop a project that will be very much in line with us working on it. So this increase the chances that once that the project is finished, we all want to keep working on this. And this is, I think, make a difference, because in the past, we will find ourselves in projects in which we wouldn't believe 100%, and then you just wait for the project to finish to get rid of it, let's say, okay? I'm saying this maybe too strongly, but it happened in the past. Instead, right now, we are really trying to focus since the beginning on, what are our skills and competencies that we want to offer into the project. And this increase the chance, I don't want to say make sure, but increase the chances that at the end of the project, you want to keep working on it. And after automatically, you develop better outputs and products in the project. And then there are more chances that you make them economically sustainable. For example, by developing business solutions. So just as Alise said, we develop in a project a specific training program. We develop our competence and skills. Then after the project, sell this training program to possible clients. And this is actually pretty intelligent. I know that maybe by speaking like that, it sounds easy or banal, but before it wasn't like that, because above all for funding, for European funding, you are constrained, let's say, to certain criteria. So they want you to develop certain products that sometimes maybe to you do not make a lot of sense. So it's really, really important at the design stage to include something in which you really believe, or at least that they are linked to your skills and competencies, but also skills and competencies that you want to develop within the team. So for example, I don't know, we were not used to develop podcasts until a couple of years ago. Right now, we include them in our proposals because we have people inside the team that they want to develop this skill. And then, maybe this podcast will not go, I don't know, but the skills and the competencies in developing podcast, the component of our team, they will still develop. So this is a way to make this project, for example, sustainable. So I think that what we are efforting a lot right now at the design stage to include outputs that are in line with our skills, but also with our wishes, let's say. I think this is what has been changed in our own processes in the last couple of years, I would say.
Thank you. This is a very powerful advice. And so to conclude, would you like to give a last advice, last word, a quote that you will give to our community that is starting to create their own creative business?
Lately, I'm using this as a mantra for myself. So I'm saying this, but I say this without any judgment. I say this to myself in front of the mirror sometimes. So it's not that easy to apply it, but I would say focus on the processes more than on the results, in the sense that the sense of belonging and sense of ownership of people to the processes are always more important than the results. And I would say something even more. Once that you set up a process in which you believe and in which you feel good, results will automatically come. So you don't have to look for them. They come to you, actually. And very many times we are pushed in things are changing, maybe too slowly, but they are changing. But from word before, not very many years ago, results matter the most. And I would say that in a world that wants to be more sustainable, it cannot be like that. So it's very, very important to set up processes and that are inclusive, that in which people feel well. And this is more important than the results.
I would add that it's important to think big, but start small and focused. And the most important thing, as they say in the saying, to start doing something, look for opportunities, talk to people, check what others are doing. And if you are really into doing what you wish to do, the funding, the projects, all that will come. But it doesn't mean that you can sit and wait. Where is the funding? Where are the projects? Go out, speak with people, go to seminars, webinars, try, write projects. They all will not succeed. Also for me and Luigi, for experienced project writers, we will get many rejections. But don't be afraid of that. As we discussed before, improve, and you will succeed.
Thank you, Alise. Thank you, Luigi. Thank you for your time and your valuable contribution. See you in the next podcast.
Thank you, Simona.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Green Fashion Dialogues. We hope you will find our discussion insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. You can also follow the Stars Project on social media to stay updated on our latest initiatives and events. Remember, together we can make fashion more sustainable and inclusive. Until next time, I'm Simona Vettore, and this has been Green Fashion Dialogues.